Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Lee Pritchard. This evening, we are honoured to acknowledge Her Excellency the Honourable Dr. Jeanette Young, Governor of Queensland, and Professor Nimmo. Rear Admiral Jack Rush, Judge Advocate General, Australian Defence Force and the accompanying delegations, and Dr. Susan Newhouse, Member of the Council of the Australian War Memorial. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. Now, if you're able, may I please invite you to stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant George Russell Drysdale. George Drysdale was born in September 1886 in Cressy, a small town west of Geelong in Victoria. He spent most of his childhood in Melbourne before the family moved to Scotland around 1900. There, he attended Fettes College, an exclusive boys' boarding school in Edinburgh. While at Fettes, he was a member of the school cadets program. After finishing school, Drysdale travelled between Australia and England, living in both countries for months or sometimes years at a time. By early 1914, Drysdale had returned to Australia and was living in the Burdekin in northern Queensland, working as a sugar farmer. Drysdale enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 22nd of August 1914 at Townsville. He was assigned to the newly formed 2nd Light Horse Regiment with the rank of Lance Corporal and began training in camp at Enoggera. Along with the rest of the 2nd Light Horse, Drysdale left Brisbane in HMAT Star of England on the 24th of September 1914, joining up with the first convoy off the coast of Albany in November before sailing to Egypt. Drysdale arrived in Egypt on the 9th of December 1914 and started training at Mahdi military camp with the rest of the regiment. The 2nd Light Horse remained in Egypt until early May 1915, when it deployed to Gallipoli without its horses, landing on the 12th of May. The 2nd Light Horse assumed a primarily defensive role around Pope's Hill and Monash Valley. On the 30th of July 1915, Drysdale was promoted to the rank of corporal. The regiment was soon involved in their only major offensive of the Gallipoli campaign, making an attack on Ottoman positions around Quinn's Post. During the attack, Drysdale was wounded. After some time behind the lines, he was admitted to hospital in Heliopolis at the end of August. Drysdale spent all of September recovering. He left Egypt to return to his regiment on the 15th of November, but was instead diverted to Mudros on the Greek island of Lemnos. A few days later, he was admitted to hospital again, this time with mumps. He finally rejoined the 2nd Light Horse just before Christmas of 1915. On the 29th of December, Drysdale was promoted to temporary sergeant. He and the rest of the 2nd Light Horse returned to Egypt at the beginning of January 1916. They spent the next 5 months deployed in the Nile Valley, protecting the area from groups of pro-Ottoman Senussi tribesmen. At the end of this period, Drysdale was promoted to sergeant in May. On the 18th of May, the 2nd Light Horse joined the rest of the Anzac Mounted Division in defending the Suez Canal from Ottoman attack. The Light Horse played a significant role in turning back the Ottoman advance at the Battle of Romani. When the Ottoman forces attempted to outflank British defences east of the canal early on the 4th of August, only the 1st Light Horse Brigade was in position to meet the enemy. It was heavily outnumbered and forced to temporarily fall back before reinforcements arrived. As the 2nd Light Horse were retreating, Sergeant Drysdale was seen with members of his regiment searching for his horse. Before long, Drysdale and 2 troopers were cut off from the rest of the regiment and had taken position behind a small sandhill. They were rushed by the Ottomans and, after a sharp scuffle, were overpowered and taken prisoner. The 3 men were questioned by a German officer and, after refusing to give away information about the British positions, were taken to a prisoner of war camp in Turkey, Afyon Kara Hisar. They arrived on the 31st of October 1916, 2.5 months after their capture. After 6 weeks, Drysdale was transferred to the camps at Angora. In the harsh Turkish winter, his health rapidly deteriorated. He was admitted to hospital at Angora in early 1917, suffering from dysentery and a type of typhus caused by body lice. Sergeant George Drysdale died of disease on Easter Sunday, the 8th of April 1917. He was 30 years old. Drysdale was buried by the Ottomans, but none of his fellow prisoners were permitted to attend his burial. George Drysdale is commemorated today in the Baghdad North Gate War Cemetery in Iraq. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant George Russell Drysdale, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.